Liz, what is your take on the current, hazardous air scenario that Delhi finds itself in?
Well, so I've been living here for 5 years. I'm from the US, and it's been an adjustment, right? And it's been interesting to see how other people are responding to it. Like there's a very wide range of, locals here who some of them are very worried. They stay home, they get sick. They're saying, I need to stay home. I can't step out. And then there are some people like my husband. He's an advocate. He can't really just sit at home. So he's just adopted this attitude of like, what can we do? Kya kare? We have to work. And so I've kind of been in that camp as well. Like I have a lot of work to do. I run a business, but it's interesting seeing the signs of it, right? Like my skin is really dry and I feel really tired, and but I don't know what to do, as was addressed by you earlier, the stubble burning. That's the major cause, right? I mean, as somebody who's relatively new to India and to Delhi, I've been researching and trying to figure out like what can we do as individual citizens, and what is something larger than us that we can't do anything about. And oftentimes I feel that there isn't really much we can do, and we just have to kind of keep living our lives. But then again, I'm not from here, so it's one of those, like, I'm still trying to wrap my head around it while going out and working. Like I put up an Instagram story today, right? I was out at the market, I was festive shopping, doing what one does during this time of year. And some of my girlfriends were messaging me, "What are you doing out there right now? You don't even have a mask on." And I was just like, I don't know what to say. I had to step out. So how do we live with this, I guess, is a question that I've been wondering lately.
Yes, obviously this is something pretty bad. It is a very dire situation, no doubt. I will hazard a guess that perhaps you're from the US. Is that correct, originally? Okay, so we heard the US ambassador as well a few days ago, Eric Garcetti, and he said that the air in Delhi reminds him of what the air in Los Angeles used to be. So that's quite interesting that there was this situation as well in a developed country like the US earlier, and in a very prominent city like LA, where there was such toxic air, and obviously there was action taken which improved it. Liz, so do you believe that, firstly, can you also tell us about that? Have you experienced that kind of air in Los Angeles, or heard of people who have back in the day, or other parts of America? And what kind of steps were taken which perhaps should be taken in Delhi as well to get us out of this dire situation?
So I am not familiar with LA. I lived before I moved to Delhi 5 years ago, I had lived in New York City for 10 years. And it's funny because there were days where there was extra smoke in the air and everyone was like, "Oh my God, it's so terrible." And it was like the AQI was like, what, not even 100. And I look back at that like, wow. Although this past summer, and you must have heard, there was the Canadian fires that came through. And I was in Jersey City at the time, and we watched, the air get darker and darker at like 2 p.m. And I guess the fires stopped, and eventually the air kind of regenerated itself. And if you recall also during COVID in Delhi, how clean everything got really quickly when the world kind of stopped. And yeah, I guess I don't really know what measures were taken by the government at that time in the United States, what they did. But I don't know. Again, I'm not an agriculture expert, but I do wonder, is there a better way that we can avoid this? Because it's got to be bad for the soil as well, no? I mean, I'm not sure, but it just seems like these fires are really bad for the environment. But at the same time, the farmers have to do what they have to do, right? So I'm not educated enough on this. It just seems like there has to be a better way.
Yes. Is this something that you think twice about living in Delhi over? Do you sometimes feel that the pollution is not something you want to expose yourself to long term, and because of which you'd like to perhaps leave Delhi, at least in this time of year when we see the pollution levels rise, or perhaps even have a thought of leaving the city permanently? Has that ever crossed your mind, or crossed other friends of yours' mind?
Of course, half my friends are gone already. They're in Goa, they're out of the country, they're in their home countries. Like even my Indian friends, I'm sure Goa's becoming a little New Delhi right now. And yeah, my husband and I have talked about it. Like I'm married to an Indian. I think I mentioned. And we did not have plans to move to the United States. You know, we like India. We're having a great life here. We're very happy. But every time this comes around, and you know, we're in our mid to late 30s now, we're just going to get older like everyone else. And I do worry about the long-term effects for us. And if we do decide to have children, I've heard terrible stories. One of my colleagues, I work at a university here as well, and one of my colleagues was telling me that his young son is coughing every year. And he's just a little kid, he doesn't know, right? And he's not sick, he's just coughing constantly. And that makes them wonder if they want to stay in Delhi. And it makes me worry for the health of the future children and how the city will be if these children grow up to be very unhealthy from this pollution. So we do think about it. As of now, we have no plans to move permanently, but we might look into how we can step out of the city for this period of time.
Yes, and what are any SOPs that you follow, or have you heard from doctors on you know, how to protect yourself? Is it through masking up, or is it through trying to avoid stepping out as much as possible? What are certain SOPs that you are following or you've heard from doctors to follow?
So I haven't yet consulted a doctor, although now you've asked me this and I feel that I should. But I've spoken with some of my local friends here who are from here, and they use like those heavy duty masks. They say they step out, and I do see today at the market, I did see people with like the surgical masks on. And so I guess just masking. We do have air purifiers in our home that we leave on most of the time. I guess we just try to reduce it, but at the same time, really, like, we're just going about our lives. We're just stepping out. And I don't think I would recommend that to other people necessarily, but we're probably not taking it as seriously as we should be, to be honest.
Okay. Well, Liz Hartman, thank you very much for joining us with your perspective on that big story.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.